Well, hi guys, welcome back to Linda's Pantry. Today, I'm gonna be making homemade Bisquick. Yes, so Bisquick is expensive in the store and I don't buy it very often because of that, but the laundry list of things that are in there are just not necessary. Really and truly, this is 4 ingredients. So we're gonna make a homemade version and I'm gonna go ahead and use it and make some delicious biscuits with it and show you one of my favorite ways to use this mix, this baking mix. You can make biscuits, pancakes, anything you want with this, but I've got 2 favorites that I always use Bisquick for, and this I'm gonna show you how that goes. So it's gonna be a little bit tricky because I need to blend the shortening. And so let me bring you in close and we'll get to working on this. It goes really fast, and once it goes, we're done, then we can make our biscuits. So come on in. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure out, I'm gonna do the recipe in halves because I'm gonna blend it up in the blender to get the fat blended really well. So you are just gonna level off. We want 3 cups to start with, but if you have a bigger blender or you've got a better way to mix this fat in, it's 6 cups total. And I'll leave the complete recipe and the recipe for what I'm making down below in the description, so you don't have to, be writing this down. So this is what happens next. You're gonna need a fat. Some people do it with shortening. I'm not a big fan of shortening. So again, I'd rather use a fat that is a little bit, in my opinion, a little more, it's simple. It's just fat. It's not, so we need for the whole thing, we're gonna need a cup of shortening. So, so we're gonna grab my handy dandy, and I've used this lard for tamales. I use it for biscuits. Pie crust, it's a must. And so for really flaky, fluffy biscuits, you're gonna want lard. You can do this recipe with butter, but it's not really shelf stable. You would have to refrigerate it if you use butter as your fat. And know that butter is not all complete, just pure fat anymore. It's sometimes got other things in there as well. So, okay, we're almost there. A little bit more. None of these are easy to work with as far as getting them measured out. There we go. I could have measured it in my push measure. And then I just wrap this back up, and it's shelf stable. So it goes for the next recipe. It'll be ready, and I'll put that back in the bake center for storage. And okay, so I'm gonna roughly put half of that in here, but I'm gonna take you over to the other counter and we're gonna add this in little by little, and then we'll dump it in our bowl. And I'll dump it in the bowl, and then we'll mix everything, then we'll put it in the jar. And then we'll get to a recipe. Okay. So for those of you that are new, I don't have a stove in place yet because we're still renovating the kitchen, and it's close, but we're gonna get there. So I'm gonna wanna use about half of this, but I only wanna do it in small portions, if that makes sense. We're gonna put our lid on. Let's get my lid on my Ninja. And we're just gonna pulse. And then add a little bit more of the fat. Shake that down a little. And if you have to, you might have to get that down in there a little bit better. You can cut it with like a pastry blender. Oop, there we go. Nice on the counter. You know, that's how I roll. Okay, we'll get this in there. And if you're not making messes in the kitchen, you're not cooking. I'm just saying. Okay, let's see if I can get this hooked back up. Oop, wrong way. There we go. Whew, okay. And we'll get this back off. It's not really working the way I wanted it to. And you get the picture. We're going to get this mixed up. A food processor would do really well. So the blender was not a good idea. We are going to get you down here. And we're going to go ahead and do it by hand. So I need 3 more cups of flour, because we need a total of 6. And 2. I don't get too crazy with flour and scoop and level and all that. If you wanted to, you could get, you know, it's not that critical. And then the rest of our fat to this, and we're just gonna cut this in just like we would for pie crust or anything else. And put this in the sink, but I want to get all that, or as much of that as I can, off of that. And we just lost some. There we go. Now we're just going to cut this in. As soon as I get this all cut in, we're going to go ahead with our, in fact, I should add it right now. While I'm cutting and mixing, you want to add in your salt and baking powder. Okay. So, and you have to have both. You can't cut out the salt at this point. So I need 3 tablespoons of baking powder. That's 2 and 3. Make sure your baking powder is pretty fresh. I bake so much and use it so much that I know it's fresh. I've always got it nice and fresh. Go ahead, and it takes a tablespoon of salt. And like I said, you need the salt to activate with the baking powder. And there's our salt. And I'm using fine sea salt. If you were using kosher salt, you could go a little heavier on that salt, about 1.5 teaspoons. We're going to go ahead and get this mixed in now. And cut and cut and mix and cut until you get what resembles sand, or, you know, the texture of Bisquick. You can tell there's fat in there. This makes the best dumplings for chicken and dumplings. It's wonderful. And if you have to, clean off your pastry knife a couple times. See, my thought process with the blender was that this would do all the work, but it's okay. It's not that hard. All right, I'll be back as soon as I'm done. Okay, so now I'm ready to get this in the jar. Everything is well combined, and you're gonna go ahead and get that down into my jar. Of course, we're gonna be using some of this, so a couple cups of it anyway. And I'm so excited to bring you that recipe. Oh my gosh, these biscuits are so good. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. They're the $1 million biscuit, or the 7-Up biscuit. So we're going to go ahead and get that down in our bowl. I'm just going to mix the biscuit recipe right in this bowl. So if I was just going to stop now, I would go ahead and kind of, you have to let it get condensed down just like that. And I've got a label on my jar so I know what it is, and we use it just like any other Bisquick recipe. And at the end I'll put a snapshot of the back of the Bisquick box so you can see different recipes, but this one is super easy. So we're going to go ahead with 2 cups of the Bisquick mix. I'm just going to pour it right out into my 1 cup measure. A little bit more. Yep. Okay, there's 1 cup. And we'll get another one. You can double this recipe if you have a crowd to feed. And you want that loosely packed. All right, just like that. So 2 cups of your biscuit mix. And let me get this out of the way. And I'll grab another measuring cup. We're going to need some sour cream. So we're going to use homemade sour cream that I made for you. Okay, so the sour cream, this is the sour cream I made for you guys with inoculating with the live culture. And oh, it is so yummy. So I need a 1/2 cup of the sour cream. And like I said, you can double this recipe too. My pan, I'm going to do this on the bake mode in my air fryer since I don't have an oven. So we're going to go ahead with the sour cream, and you're going to kind of cut that in to the mix a little bit. I don't think it matters. And then we do need a 1/2 stick of butter. What? Yes, a 1/2 stick of butter goes into the pan and right into the bottom of your baking pan. So I'm gonna put it right on in, and these are gonna be like swimming in butter. And we'll need the rest of that butter to melt and have to brush them when we're done. So I'm gonna put this into preheat. So I get my Ninja and preheat on the bake setting. And we're going to want this to go to 400. We want to bake at 400 and start. Okay, so that's preheating because this goes pretty fast once you get it going. So we're going to need a 1/2 cup of 7-Up. Oh, I'm going to need my husband. I got the 7-Up opened. Sometimes those are just not that fun. Okay, so we're getting that all mixed in. The sour cream is getting mixed in. Oh, my oven, or my little Ninja is preheating. And we don't want to miss out on any of that sour cream. Not one little bite of it. Okay, now we've got, and I do have flour because I don't want to put the baking mix on my counter. So you want a 1/2 cup of 7-Up, and it's going to bubble and get you kind of a loosey. And I'll leave a link to the Danish whisk. I think it's in my Amazon store, but I'll leave a link to the Ninja and the Danish whisk. And look at that. You've got this beautiful biscuit dough right there. That's perfect. And the nice thing about the Danish whisk, it does clean up pretty easy. This is a very sticky dough though, so you're gonna go ahead with that. Go on over here, rinse off my hands, and looks like my oven, or my Ninja, is preheated. So that means the butter should be melted. We're just about just about there. Now I need to find a bench scraper. Where would you live if you were mine? My bench scraper. I believe I've got them over here. There it is. Okay, we've got a bench scraper. We're gonna throw down some flour, a little bit of flour, because we're gonna have to work a little bit in. And my counters, I've been clean. All I've been doing is clean, because the construction dust. So go ahead, get everything off your bowl and put it right down onto your counter. Like I said, some people use the biscuit or the Bisquick mix to put on their biscuits, but I don't want it all over my counter. So you're just gonna fold these just like that. Spread them out, fold them. Okay, I feel like that's plenty of folding. Put that on in there. Okay, now I just press them out. I don't like to overwork them because you don't want a tough biscuit. We want these to be really tender. And of course, I forgot the biscuit cutter. I'll be right back. Okay, so biscuit cutting 101, don't twist. Just straight down, and that way they'll be able to rise up. And these are pretty big, so we're gonna make that one like that. Try to make that one work. Sometimes you'll get a wonky one. And we got Bob is not having it. He's telling the whole neighborhood that he is boss. Let's just make that look like it was supposed to be. Okay. So we've got 6 beautiful little biscuits. I'm gonna take you over and I'll show you what happens next. Okay, so we take our biscuits, I totally forgot to turn the camera on. Take our biscuits and put it right down into your half a stick of melted butter. And down the lid goes about 12 minutes at 400 degrees. Okay. Okay, 12 minutes. Now, in a regular oven, it might take up to 18 minutes. We don't want to overcook them, but look at that. Oh, so fluffy. And the bottoms, I don't know if you can see the bottoms, are all golden brown. Whoops, golden. And so are the tops. So the Ninja did a good job here. I did some yeast rolls in the 3-way microwave at Thanksgiving, and they just didn't come out as well as I would have liked. I really wish I would have had these biscuits. Now we're gonna smear some more butter on them because there's not enough butter. Let's get these over to the counter. Okay, woo, and a taste test is coming. Okay, so we have some melted butter, about half of what was left of that stick of butter, because there's just not enough butter on these, right? Really liberally brush these. It's gonna make all the difference. And I use salted butter with everything. So if you don't want the extra salt, and I'll have the ugly biscuit, if you will, because you know, it's okay. Chef's treat. Just pour that right on over top of those biscuits. And there we go. And I had my timer, And if I would have left it in that long, it would have been overdone. So I'm glad I didn't leave it in the full 15 minutes. And I don't know if you can see how delectable these look. They're so good. And they're still swimming in butter. There's butter at the bottom of the plate. Okay, so let's get one of these. Oh, it's so hot, but you can just tell the texture is so light and fluffy. Look at that. These melt in your mouth. Even though they're hot, they're not sweet. You would think with the 7-Up they might be sweet, but they're not. That crispy, lightly salty, buttery edge to the whole thing is delightful. I'm not even joking. I could sit there and eat 2 or 3. I'm not going to though. I'm gonna save the rest because I've got a pot of beans going on, 15 bean soup and a big ham hock and some Italian sausage. So these are gonna be delightful with that tonight. But I can't wait for my husband to taste these because they really are just light and fluffy. Whoop. Okay. Look at that. Oh man. Okay. That's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to make your own Bisquick, that's how easy it is. You make a little bit of a mess, but the mess is well worth cleaning up after you get it to have some 7-Up biscuits with your Bisquick mix. All right, guys. Bye. I'm just going to tell you, these biscuits melt in your mouth. They're so light and fluffy. I hope you try them.